Hi, my second grade friends. Thank you for coming to science today. I have a very exciting science lesson planned for you because we're moving on to a new unit. Let's get started. What I want to do is I would like to first go over some of the things that we have investigated so far in second grade, and then I'm going to lead you into a new direction. What we learned so far includes practicing making good predictions. We also learned about the different bodies of water on our planet, and we know that there is way more water than there is land. Speaking of land, we learned about different land formations and how those different land formations occur from erosion. And then we learned about some different erosion controls, and that is a picture of a windbreak. What we are going to learn about going forward in this next unit is totally different than the pictures that we just discussed real quick. What we're going to start talking about is engineering. And I know we didn't get too much time in first grade to talk about engineering, so we will spend quite a bit of time on it, right? And specifically, when we talk about engineering for the next few weeks, what I want you to think about are some sound and some light devices that have been created or that can be invented in the future. And when I talk about engineering, some of you might say, well, what is an engineer? And that's a really, really good question. I want you to make a prediction. What is an engineer? Well, engineers are people who fix, design, or build things to solve problems. Fix, design, or build things to solve problems. So in the past, a whole long time ago, hundreds and thousands of years ago, people did not have cell phones, right? That was a problem. People did not have lights. That was a problem. So engineers are people in the past, in the present, and in the future who invent sound, light, and many, many, many other types of devices that solve problems. To kickstart this engineering unit that we are about to begin, I'm going to read to you one of my favorite stories. It's called JackRabbit McCabe and the Electric Telegraph by Lucy Margaret Rosier and Leo Espinosa. And I have a few questions for you before we get started. You can answer these out loud or you can have a discussion with somebody at home. First, what do you think this story is about? Next, do you think it's fiction or nonfiction or a mixture of both? Third, is this story about a sound or light device? And then lastly, what problem do you think an electric telegraph solves? When you're all done thinking about those 4 pre-reading questions, you could press play, and I'm going to read you the story.
This here's the story of JackRabbit McCabe, who was born to run. At birth, his legs were so long they looped like a pretzel, and his father had to add an extra axle to the baby carriage. When he was a 3-year-old, his mama dressed him in long pants every morning. But by noon, his socks top showed, and by 5 o'clock, he was wearing shorts. Little Jack chased whatever would run, hogs, dogs, and even his own shadow. As he got older, he raced trains flying past his house in Windy Flats. For years, the engineers cheered him on. By the time he turned 18, he'd beat every stagecoach, antelope, and locomotive in the territory. Perched on the edge of the Great Plains, the town of Windy Flats always counted on JackRabbit's speed when a message had to get out fast, like to fetch old Doc Dobbins to patch up some ninny from the Double Dairy Club, who fell while climbing up St. Bertha's church steeple. Whenever the sky turned green and twisters bore down, JackRabbit rounded up every wandering chick and child and plunked them safe back home. On Sunday afternoons, he ran in horse races out at the county fairgrounds. Folks who knew JackRabbit always bet on him to place first. Since he earned a piece of the pot, he made good money. Then one day, something new came to Windy Flats: the electric telegraph. Out east, telegraph wires already crisscrossed the landscape, carrying messages quicker than the mail by using electricity. Each city and town connected by the wires had a telegraph and an operator who sent and received messages in Morse code, an alphabet of dots and dashes. The first week the telegraph company showed up in Windy Flats, there was plenty of talk. "I don't believe any newfangled contraption can carry a message faster than JackRabbit," said Mayor Babel. "Nor do I," said Judge Feston. The telegraph man overheard their boast and said, "How about a race between your fella and their telegraph? Sandy Bluff just got themselves an operator. That's pert near 25 miles as the crow flies." Of course, the mayor had no trouble convincing JackRabbit to race. "Why, yes, sir," JackRabbit said. "I can outrun anything." On the day of the big showdown, folks came from miles around. Windy Flats felt as festive as a flag-waving jubilee. A brass band played and Mayor Babel spoke. Then the mayor carefully wrote down the same message on 2 slips of paper. He handed one to the telegraph man and the other to JackRabbit. To start the race, Judge Feston hollered so everyone could hear, "On your marks, get set." A finger hovered just above the telegraph key. JackRabbit leaned way over with one foot already in the air. Go! Down went that telegraph key. Off shot JackRabbit. Who do you guys think is going to win? Make a prediction. JackRabbit pumped his legs, kicking up storm clouds of dust. On the flat roof of the Mercantile, children whooped and hollered as they watched him roar like a tornado down the road and out of sight. The crowd held its breath. In just a few moments, a reply came clattering back as that telegraph key jumped and smacked all on its own. The telegraph man quickly read the code and shouted, "Message received. Stop. Sandy Bluff operator." The crowd let its breath go in one great sigh. "Aw, shucks! Where's JackRabbit McCabe?" they asked each other. Well, sir, JackRabbit ran in record time, 9.5 minutes to Sandy Bluff. But there was no brass band to welcome him, only a telegram tacked up on the door of the depot. It read, "As that fine statesman and inventor Benjamin Franklin once said, energy and persistence conquers all things. Stop. Mayor Babel of Windy Flats." JackRabbit pulled the mayor's message out of his pocket and read it with the Sandy Bluff operator. "Yep, they're the same. I guess I got beat." JackRabbit felt lower than a snake's navel. He took a slow stagecoach ride home. Meanwhile, Mayor Babel paced and thought. He was barely listening to the telegraph's man talk till he heard, "Say, who's going to be your telegraph operator?" Suddenly, the mayor perked up. "What about JackRabbit McCabe?" he said. "If his fingers are half as speedy as his long legs, we're in business." And so, when JackRabbit finally arrived back in Windy Flats, Mayor Babel was there to greet him. "Good news, my friend. How would you like to become the first telegraph operator of our fair city?" JackRabbit's shy grin quickly grew into a face-splitting smile. He jumped up with a big wahoo and ran 6 times around town. So JackRabbit sent away for his own Morse code book, and when it came, he practiced every minute. Before long, his fingers flew like a banjo player's, strumming that telegraph key. Day in and day out, he sent and received messages, and of course, hand-delivered telegrams in a flash. He even teamed up with the local typesetter who printed the news that came over that wire, linking Windy Flats to the whole entire country. And who do you think delivered the newspaper every evening? That's right, Jack Rabbit, who could run through every speck of town as fast as a squirrel hightails it up a tree, and what's more, land a paper at every door. Now I ask you, was there ever any fellow so all-fired expeditious as JackRabbit McCabe? The end. Stop.
All right, my second grade friends, I hope you enjoyed that story as much as Miss Millerick does. Let's go back to these questions I had you think about before we read the story. What do you think this story is about? Well, it's about this main character, JackRabbit McCabe, and he races the electric telegraph. That leads us into our next question. Do you think it's fiction or nonfiction? Well, the book is definitely fiction, right? Nobody can really race an electric telegraph, but it's a little nonfiction too because the electric telegraph was actually a communication device that was used a very long time ago. Is this story about a sound or light device? It's about a sound device, even though while we were reading we couldn't hear the Morse code messages. They are made with sounds. And then lastly, what problem do you think an electric telegraph solves? Well, it solves the problem of people trying to communicate with each other throughout different towns and cities and states. And what you guys are going to do is you are going to practice using Morse code today. For the rest of science today, you will pull these worksheets out of your new science packet that I sent home, and you are going to uncover a secret message. So you will practice being an electric telegrapher and cracking the Morse code message. Number 2 is optional. You can try to write your own Morse code message. Please make sure when you are done that you, on Google Classroom, make sure you tell me what the answer was to the crack the code activity. I hope you have fun. Bye, guys.